Ready?
Hello, and welcome to our Friday episode of Artifacts with Edie, a live show and tell of the artifacts from the Summit County Historical Society. My name is Edie Steiner, and I'm a music therapist with Akron Public Schools at Bridges Learning Center. I'm also the shepherdess here at the Summit County Historical Society. Happy summer vacation to our scholars from Akron Public Schools who had their last day of school yesterday. We can't wait to hear about your summer plans. This summer, I plan to spend a lot of time outside gardening, playing with the dogs, and hanging out with the sheep. I'm also definitely going to make some time for reading and working on my writing in my new summer notebook. So for the summer months of June, July, and August, Artifacts with Edie will be held each Friday at 11:30 a.m. We hope that you'll continue to join us on the Facebook Live, and soon you may be able to join us live on Mutton Hill for Farm Fridays, which will start Friday, June 19th. Today, I'm broadcasting to you from the historic Perkinstone Mansion front porch, where we started our adventure during week one with the topic of the Ohio and Erie Canal, with Akron's founders, General Simon Perkins and Paul Williams, donating the land to the state of Ohio. If you'll remember from week two, I got to take on the role as School Marm Steiner, sharing with you the historical information regarding the fact that free public education was enacted first here in Akron and Summit County before it was copied and modeled all throughout the state of Ohio and then the nation. We talked about the fact that students attended the school as they could, depending on how each and every one of them needed to be at home, especially young men who needed to assist on the farm. The occupation or job of farmer was held by a majority of people during that time in our area and across the nation. If someone didn't own a farm, they probably were working on a farm during that time. And while Akron was growing as the county seat for the county of Summit, jobs outside the home or the homestead with farmland was pretty limited. Although we learned a lot of the workers were necessary to dig on the Ohio and Erie and Pennsylvania and Ohio canals that ran through Akron and Summit County. Many times, families planted and harvested crops for their livelihood, or they raised farm animals on their farms. The third week, we discussed the fact that John Brown was a shepherd working with Colonel Simon Perkins here on Mutton Hill with over 1,300 to about 1,500 merino wool sheep. And Brown and his sons were responsible for watching over this flock of merino Saxony sheep and tilling and harvesting the crops that they fed to the sheep. Mrs. Marianne Brown and her daughters, they tended to the family garden to grow food and completed house chores within their home. John Brown was also an abolitionist who organized a raid on a national armory to try and end slavery in the United States. The legacy of struggle continues in our African American community, and it's not okay. One of the stories we have the privilege of telling at the Summit County Historical Society is of John Brown and the relationships that he built for all people to be equal. He lived in the home across the street with his family between 1844 and 1854. An abolitionist is a person who tried to permanently end slavery during the 19th century. John Brown's goal was to free over 4 million men, women, and children held against their will in southern states to harvest crops. These people were forced to work jobs and make money for people who felt that they had the right to own other people. There were 21 people that joined Brown. There were 5 African American men, 2 of them who were escaped slaves or freedom seekers trying to save their family members, and 3 were free African American men. And 16 of the men were white, which included 2 of John Brown's own sons. Captain Brown, as he was referred to by his army, had also anticipated the assistance of a well-known woman who was a conductor on the Underground Railroad, just like him. He called her General Tubman. You may know her better as Harriet Tubman. But unfortunately, a head injury from when she was beat as a slave flared up before she was able to leave, and she couldn't get out of bed and join Brown and his army of men. So while John Brown's raid was not successful in ending slavery in 1859, the American Civil War would erupt just 2 years later. Today, the Smithsonian Institution states that the Civil War era begins with the raid on Harper's Ferry and ends with the assassination of President Lincoln. In week 4, we discussed the role of men, women, and children on the home front during World War II. And one of the ways that families could assist during this time was to plant a victory garden at their house. Did you plant a garden this year, or are you planning to? Better hurry up. Even if you don't have a farm, you can grow vegetables and herbs in a container. It could be as small as a jar on your windowsill or as large as a plastic or wood tub on your patio or your front stoop or your balcony. Just remember that you can get lots of gardening tips from Let's Grow Akron, who helps plant community gardens throughout Akron and Summit County. So taking the time to tend to our garden is a good way to stay healthy. Do you remember our episodes in week 5 about the history of hospitals in Akron? Patients at City Hospital, now known as Summa Health, benefited from the fruit trees that were planted at the Barges Farm. We also learned about the special services for children, first as the Mary Day Nursery and now Akron Children's Hospital. They even have a doggy brigade, and our boys, Rudy, Luke, Lincoln, and Owen, loved that part best. Vandalia Moats was the first baby born at the People's Hospital on the day it opened, and that hospital is now called the Cleveland Clinic Akron General. One funny story about a patient was her complaint about hospital food. Instead, she asked for a baked potato supper. Last week, we talked about cooking using a beehive oven and large fireplace right inside this Perkins Stone mansion right here. It was a lot of hard work for Mrs. Perkins and the young ladies who were hired to come and help out at the household with the cooking and the chores. Colonel Perkins hired young men to help outside in the fields and to help tend to the animals and work on the land. Well, that catches you all up on all of the episodes of Artifacts with Edie so far. So let's review today before we announce our very special artifact of the day. So question 1. In what ways were early Ohioans the same as Ohioans today? Now, this is an extended response question, but Ohio isn't the heart of it all for nothing. Ohio is and has always been a diverse location with people from all different countries with many different backgrounds and socioeconomical backgrounds and different family structure. You've learned so much during all of our episodes, so I know that you can support your answer with the facts you need. Question 2. John Brown was raised in a family with what belief system? Was it A, nutritionist, B, violinist, C, traditionalist, or D, abolitionist? If you said D, abolitionist, you are correct. John Brown was raised in an abolitionist home and was a radical abolitionist throughout his lifetime. Let's move on to question 3. I hope you can remember the answer to our next question, which takes us all the way back to our knowledge about World War II. So what was rationed during World War II? Was it A, sugar, B, coffee, C, gasoline, or D, all of the above? If you guessed all of the above, you have selected the correct answer. Families could buy limited amounts of sugar, coffee, gasoline, but only with their ration stamps. You got it. You might remember that the Emergency Price Control Act granted the Office of Price Administration, OPA, the authority to set price limits and ration food and other commodities in order to discourage reporting and ensure the equitable distribution of scarce resources. So let's get ready to find out what this artifact of the day. Did you get all of our hints as we tilled the groundwork to share that our artifact of the day has to do with agriculture? Did you know that agriculture is actually a science? It includes farming and growing crops and taking care of animals that provide other products like wool. So our artifact of the day, it is a model of the 1855 Buckeye mower and reaper, which is a prototype of the modern mower. It was invented by Akronite Lewis Miller. He had 92 patents during his lifetime and was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame in 2006 right here in Akron. According to that organization, Miller's practical horse-drawn Buckeye mower advanced McCormick's reaper by adding a floating cutting bar in front of the farmer for safety. The bar's most distinct feature provided the operator with the option to raise and lower the cutting bar parallel to the ground so that they could get over rocks and move through gates or maybe even go through the barn. Mr. Miller was an inventor and an entrepreneur and a philanthropist. His local company in town was called Altman, Miller and Company. Later, it was purchased by a company that you may be familiar with. It's called International Harvester, and they moved to Chicago. We could share a lot more information about Mr. Miller, like the fact that his daughter married an inventor you might know right here in Akron. His daughter married Thomas Edison. But that's a story for another day, because look at the time. It's getting late. So if you're finding yourself hungry for more Akron and Summit County history, be sure to check out our website at www.summithistory.org. I'll tell you that website one more time, www.summithistory.org. So I will see you next Friday at 11:30 live on Facebook for our next episode of Artifacts with Edie, where I show and tell the artifacts from the Summit County Historical Society, where history